Okay, so intersexual selection, again meaning between sexes, is when a female is choosing which mate she wants. So it's not males competing for a female, it's females choosing which mate that they want. And so it's tricky because males will put in energy or are often showy traits are selected for because they're more likely to be chosen by a female, but showy traits are often selected against because they make you more likely to be seen by a predator. So there's like a balance between the two. So it would increase your chance of fitness in order to pass on to be chosen by a female to pass on your genes, but it would also decrease your fitness because you're more likely to be seen by a predator. So it goes back and forth. I'm not gonna talk about this. So not. Okay, read the rest of that stuff on your own. You need to know it, but I'm not going to spend time on it. So basically, but there's 4 things that I want to talk about. And this says why natural selection cannot fashion perfect organisms. So remember that we are only we are only changing to better suit a changing environment. So there's no like perfect end for evolution because the environment is always changing. So our goal is a moving target. And there's never going to be a perfect thing because natural selection, number 1, can only act on existing variations. So remember that there's variations among every population, and those are the only things that can be passed to the next generation. So it's not like, let's say that humans, it would be advantageous for us to be able to see at night, like or see in the dark, pitch black, be able to see. However, that's not going to be a thing because no humans can see in the pitch black. So that trait is never going to be selected for. Or having wings to fly. That would be cool. Maybe would make us more suited to our environments, would be fit, would have a high level of fitness and would be passed on. But that's never going to happen because there's no humans with wings. So natural selection only acts on the natural variation that's already existent in a population. So that's also why nothing's getting perfect. And then evolution is limited by historical constraints. What that means is that we all are descendant from an ancestor. The ancestors of humans were the same ancestors as the ancestors of apes. And so they evolved to their environment, which is very different than the environment that we live in now. And they had a lot of changes and a lot of structures that were selected for and phenotypes that we have now because of them and because of the selection pressures that they were facing. And so those don't just go away. Like humans weren't built from scratch. Humans were built over thousands and thousands and thousands of generations from an ancestor which is entirely different than we were. So so we only have to work with what our ancestors gave us. So it says, we would imagine that if a terrestrial animal were to adapt to an environment in which flight would be advantageous, it might be best to just grow an extra pair of limbs that would serve as wings. However, it doesn't work that way because if your ancestors didn't have wings, then you're not going to have wings. So we're limited by what we came from. And then adaptations are often compromises. So think of it this way. A seal, like the example that your textbook gives you, is that a seal spends a lot of its time on rocks. Can't move very well on the rocks because it has flippers instead of legs. But if it had legs, it wouldn't be able to swim as well as it does with it when it has flippers. So these adaptations, they have to be a compromise of some sort. For example, humans have opposable thumbs and flexible limbs and all of those great things that enable us to be so agile and move so quickly and grab things differently than dogs or cats or other animals that don't have opposable thumbs that we have. But because of our flexible limbs and our opposable thumbs, we're really susceptible to breaking bones and getting torn ligaments and things like that. Our structural reinforcement has been compromised for agility. So all of these things are compromises. And then chance, natural selection, and the environment interact. So chance happens all the time. Mutations, bottleneck effect, founder effect, things like that, then natural selection, whichever one of those is the best adapted to whatever the environment is what's going to be passed on. However, that environment is changing all the time. So that's why, like I said, it's a moving target because chance, natural selection, and the environment interact. So there's never going to be one perfect thing because we're best adapted to the environment, but what we have is always changing due to mutation and genetic drift and gene flow. And so with all of these changing factors, we're trying our best to adapt to an environment that's always changing. So that's why there's no perfect end picture for natural selection or for evolution. It's just constantly trying to better adapt to our changing environment. And that's all.